The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Well, I've been so lucky the last couple of weeks. Last week I had Anthony Rota online, the Speaker of the House, and this week I have a dear old friend to both Jane and I, Mike Savage, who's in his third term as mayor of Halifax. But in my terms in the House of Commons, Mike was there as well and was a good friend. Mike, we traveled to the Middle East together. We focused on poverty issues, and we had such... I found politics really quite difficult there, but you just had this ease of being able to work through it because of your sense of humor. You were quite skilled at it. So it's interesting that you're mayor, but do you remember those days that we had there? They were kind of difficult because it was opposition time for us. On the other hand, we formed some pretty good friendships then.
Yeah, I remember those days very well, Glenn. You came in the by-election, right, in 2005 or six, and yeah, and it was good. I looked up to you an awful lot. You were, you weren't what I would call a partisan so much, but you used to go and talk to people on other sides of the aisle, which was helpful because I think you were more interested in getting stuff done than, showing that you might be able to get something done. And you could go talk to Bev Oda or somebody who might be able to help on some issues that mattered. So, you were, it was fun. It was a good time. It was challenging. It was partisan. It's not any less partisan now, that's for sure. Yeah. It's just tough.
And I do I realize too that once you become mayor, look, you're an MP, you're kind of responsible to your party, and you've got all sorts of organizers, people in the leader's office and all that kind of stuff, kind of telling you what they want you to do. They have a whip whose responsibility is to make sure that you stay in line, which was always a bit difficult with you. But it's different being a mayor, right? You can kind of set your own tone and your own agenda. Is that correct? Is that how you found it?
Yeah, we don't have a party system in most. I mean, there are some parties at municipal politics, Montreal, Vancouver, places like that, but they're not liberal, conservative, NDP, Green. And so here in Halifax, we're all elected individually, and for me, it suits me quite well. I enjoy it. You get to exert some leadership on issues that matter to you. You're always building a coalition from zero. You don't have a built-in caucus, which is good. I know that in your city, there have been times before municipally where there seems to have been blocks for and against everything together. I don't like that. Yeah. So it's challenging and it's frustrating at times, but it's also rewarding, and it gives you an opportunity to show leadership on issues that matter to you. And I've found that to be very rewarding.
Yeah. Mike, in your first term, once you got elected as mayor, and I wish we could have voted for you, but we didn't live there, but you came to London at my request to speak at the convention center, and we had a number of people there. We had Naheed Nenshi from Calgary, of course, the mayor of Calgary, and we also had Grant Oliphant, who was the head of the foundation in Pittsburgh, where they've been doing so many fascinating things, and I know you've been in touch with them as well. But I remember how wonderful it was to see you in that setting, in a civic setting with all of these different people, but they're all together and they don't so much have a particular persuasion coming into it. They're just trying to get stuff done. And I remember you spoke there and then you came back to the house after that, but I remember just how much people took the way of doing things, right?
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. It was good to see you and Jane, of course.
Yeah, no, it was good.
You mentioned Naheed. So Naheed was a great mayor. We had a lot of fun together. And I must say the new mayor, Jody Gondek, is very cool as well. Doing some amazing stuff. But I've always felt that cities is where a lot of stuff can happen. And for a long time, cities didn't lead on issues like environment, human rights, immigration. We were told to fix the potholes and to cut the grass. And over the last number of years, you've seen mayors become much more active on those key issues, right? I've had the chance to do what Michael Bloomberg has set up, his mayor's course, the Bloomberg Harvard Initiative, where you meet other mayors around the world. And I had a chance to be in COP26 in November talking about the importance that cities play in climate change and action. And so I really think that cities is where stuff happens. And I don't really miss I miss the friends and the people I knew in Ottawa, but I don't miss the intense partisanship that exists. I don't miss the automatic coalitions and that form for purely political reasons. I think at the city level, we're able to get past a lot of that.
Yeah, that's right. Back at the beginning of Canada, 85, 90% of the country was rural. Right now, you look at it, it's totally flipped. Most of it is in municipalities, small, medium, larger sized cities, right? And however, federalism, the way that it's constituted, still has cities as kind of the distant cousin of a lot of the big stuff that happens. And yet that's where the majority of the Canadians live. Right. So it makes sense to me that cities would begin to drive a lot of these policy issues, a lot of these advocative issues of people trying to get things done. And yet at the same time, do you think it seems to me that sometimes anyway, it seems to me that things still haven't changed all that much. We still have to go up to our provincial headquarters, or we still have to go down to Ottawa and trying to beg to get certain stuff. It still seems to me that the capacity for cities to be able to financially, especially, respond to crises as they emerge is still limited. It's also, things are passed down through the pipeline from the senior level, senior jurisdictions. They might pass an initiative, but then dump it all down to the local municipalities and expect them to run it. It seems to me that hasn't changed all that much, or do I have that wrong? You would know that better than I would.
I think it's changed a bit. We don't have the fiscal capacity of provincial or federal governments. So that was the big push back 20 years ago, which culminated in Paul Martin's government announcing that the gas tax would go to municipal governments. So what we've always wanted was to be recognized as the third order of government, the fourth order if you include Indigenous peoples across the country and their governments. And so having some financial flexibility was important. Paul Martin brought in the gas tax. Stephen Harper made it permanent. This federal Liberal government has been pretty good for municipalities, bringing in infrastructure money and on issues like housing, bringing in something called the Rapid Housing Initiative, which allows us to create, and that goes to the cities. We then have to go to the provinces for support. So it's changed somewhat, but it's an argument that we continue to have. We've had a very powerful voice in FCM, and certainly through the Big City Mayors Caucus over the last number of years, we've been able to have a good relationship with federal governments. It's challenging at the provincial levels in some jurisdictions. I always tell people, look, we have to get elected too. We have to get elected. And so there's two issues. One is funding, the other is jurisdiction. And jurisdiction is one of the biggest problems that we have in the country, because no government wants to take on something that somebody else might have a responsibility for. You look at housing. I always tell people, the feds have the money, the province have the jurisdiction, the cities have the feds have the money, the province have the jurisdiction, the cities have the problem. And so you can't be a city and not care about housing and homelessness. So I think it's a little bit better, Glen, but we continue to push. And I think there's a recognition that municipalities need more autonomy in order to be as effective as we can be.
Yeah. You mentioned FCM, so that's the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and that's kind of where we all get grouped together. Then, of course, you have the big cities, mayors, caucuses. But is it your sense that at that level, and not just at the individual levels, that is beginning to carry more sway when it comes to the senior levels of government, or no? Yeah,
I would say so. Largely because the big city mayors is 21 or 22 of the largest cities, and we constitute 2/3 of the population of the country or something like that. And that's not to diminish the fact that, even small rural municipalities have good leadership. In Nova Scotia, the town of Bridgewater is doing some amazing stuff on climate change. And that's happening across the country. But I think that there's a growing sense that cities need to not only be part of the solution, but we can in fact lead on some of these. Our climate action plan here in Halifax, which we call Halifax, we called it Halifax 2050 when we adopted it in council 2 years ago. And we've taken the 2050 out of it because, frankly, that's too far away. But our Halifax Municipal Climate Action Plan, which was built in consultation with an incredible number of groups, not just the Ecology Action Centre, but the Black social workers of Nova Scotia, recognizing how impacts are being felt from climate. It's a cool thing. It's an important project. So, and you've seen municipal governments lead on climate change. You've seen, I always talk about when Donald Trump became the president of the United States and pulled out of Paris, and all these American cities said, no, we're staying in Paris, the climate accord, because we feel the effect. When the president was talking about building walls, the mayors of Boston, who I know well, and New York and Seattle and Houston and LA all said, we're built on immigrants. We're not building walls. We still welcome people to come into it. So I think cities have shown leadership, and I would argue progressive leadership when it's been most needed.
Yep, that's the way I see it too. I do wonder about poverty, though. I wonder if we can talk about that a bit. I mean, I've been at the food bank for over 3 decades and seen so many changes in politics and business, in the bureaucracy, those kind of things. But I've had the sense in London, and I know from speaking, I saw former Mayor Nenshi a few weeks ago up in Muskoka, and we were talking about this as well. It's felt to me that poverty has kind of gotten a little bit out of our ability to be able to really impact it. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe that's just London and some other places. I know Calgary struggled with it as well. But it seems to me that things like homelessness, because of changes and all sorts of different things in real estate and all these other things, job market, all that stuff, all of a sudden homelessness has not just become bigger, but it seems to have become entrenched and harder to deal with. So in London, we struggle with that all the time. As a food bank, we do, trying to help the agencies that are there. But I'm knowing you're a pretty creative fella. How in Halifax have you folks tackled that homeless situation? Do you have this feeling that it is growing and burgeoning and harder to control, or do you feel that you're starting to get it under some semblance of control?
I think both of those things, to be honest with you. Absolutely, it's burgeoning. I remember, Glen, when you and I were in the House, I was on the Human Resources Committee. We did a very significant study on poverty and homelessness. And we went out across the country, and I remember visiting Calgary, that was really firing on all cylinders as a city back then. But they had the largest homeless shelter in the country, because people tend to go where they think that there's a lot of, where the road, the streets are paved with gold, and a lot of people get there and they sort of don't do as well. So Halifax has been a phenomenally growing city the last number of years. We've been growing in leaps and bounds. But not everybody's part of that success. So, you cannot, I always tell people, I don't want to just be a bigger city, I want to be a better city. So in the last 10 years since I've been mayor, we've done quite a few things, I think. One of the first things we did was we set up a housing and homelessness partnership with the United Way and a number of other NGOs in the city. We set up a Department of Diversity and Inclusion. We have, over the last few years, gotten into housing in a big way. In Nova Scotia, housing and homelessness are provincial jurisdictions. And going back to when I was an MP, I used to tell people, people always talk about the middle class. Well, there are a lot of people that aren't in the middle class who don't get much attention because they tend not to vote, because they're struggling to know where they're going to spend the night, where they're going to get their meal. Yeah. And so I don't think poverty ever got the attention electorally that it should have. In the last few years, we've seen visible demonstrations of homelessness encampments. We have those in Halifax. We're dealing with them today as we speak. We started off saying, we have bylaws. As long as somebody has a place to go, we're gonna go in and make sure that the parks are open to everybody. We now have 4 locations in the city where we're going to allow people to have encampments. But more importantly, we've set up modular housing units for people who have no place else to go. The problem is not everybody can even go into a modular temporary emergency
Yeah.
shelter. We're working with our provincial government, who've been very good the last little while, and trying to sort of create these solutions. So on homelessness is a big issue. You know, a couple of weeks ago at our council, we called upon the federal government to institute a basic annual income, which I support. I've always supported. But I don't like saying, you know, you guys fix that. That's provincial and federal mainly. So before that, we had implemented a living wage here in Halifax for people who work with us, particularly with our contractors. And, you know, not everybody loves that, right? There are people that, you know, there are people in the business community that say we can't compete with a government that's paying a living wage. So we've taken a number of issues, trying to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. But it is, to your original question, it is a burgeoning and difficult problem. In many ways, it's one of those wicked issues that every time you think you've plugged a hole, another one pops up. Yeah. And so that's why I think things like a living wage and a basic annual income, where everybody has at least the opportunity to have a chance at life, I think those kind of issues are ultimately going to be really important for the country if we're ever going to stop managing poverty and actually start trying to alleviate poverty.
Yeah, I want to come back to that in a sec, but I did want to ask you, do you do anything different or special or nuanced in the wintertime, in the colder months, about homelessness? You mentioned these 4 shelters, but do you have to enact some other things?
Well, we have warming centers in the city. We set up a permanent one. So when it would get below a certain level, we would activate a warming center, but that's really piecemeal. So we set up with the provincial government last year a full-time overnight shelter for people who have no place else to go. So it's most acute in the winter, but like in the summer too, any time of year, homelessness is a real problem. It doesn't go away in the summertime. It just sort of goes into the background of it. People camp in woods, people move their tents, you know, they're able to survive, but it's not solving the problem, it's just managing it. And so all of these things really are all good things. Yeah. You know, I remember you've got a lot of experience in Africa. I remember going to Kenya on a trip one time to look at poverty issues, and you know, a government official said to me, it's great that we have people looking at the impact of AIDS or the co-infection of AIDS and tuberculosis. We've got people on malaria. You know, Canadian churches like the Baptist Church, the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church are all doing bits and pieces, but there is no overarching infrastructure in Kenya to deal with poverty. Yeah. And so I always think that that's what we have to try to do, is find a system-wide solution that deals with poverty and make sure that more people have more opportunity to succeed.
Yeah. Now you mentioned about, you know, a living wage or a basic income guarantee. The other mayors that you're part of with it, these over 20 from the cities, do you see a movement amongst them towards those same kind of things, or is it still pretty hit and miss when it comes to the mayors?
I think there's a lot of support for basic annual income among mayors, but we all recognize that a good percentage of the burden falls on other orders of government, so we have to play our part. We are, as cities and municipalities, are always looking to the feds and the province for support. We have to play a role in return. So I think there's a lot of support for that. I will tell you that the biggest issue among mayors in Canada right now, and has been for the last at least couple of years, is homelessness and then housing. Housing supply is a problem for everybody. I've got 2 kids in their 20s. You know, I want them to be able to survive and be able to live. They both have university educations. They're both working for large organizations. It's still not easy to find a place, you know, to live, let alone think about buying a house right now. But homelessness is a huge issue. So I don't know if you know Don Iveson, the former mayor of Edmonton. Sure. Great guy. He was the chair of the big city mayors. That's now a mantle that's fallen to me. Don was amazing at it. And so now he's working. He's taken a job in the private sector, but he's still very involved in trying to find creative solutions for homelessness. Yeah. I just don't believe that we need to have people living on the streets in this country. I know there are people who can't go anywhere else, but nobody should have to live in a tent or in a shed that's not safe and not healthy. In our city, it shouldn't be the case. So homelessness, housing are big issues for mayors.
Yeah, and I think that something bigger, though, has changed. Like London, for instance, is in kind of a building boom, right? Which is great, and yet homelessness is growing at the same time. So always before our views of the economy is once the economy starts doing better and these opportunities start taking place, then some of these things at the other end of the low income end can start being handled or whatever it is. But that's not happening here in London. I know it's also not happening elsewhere. There's other cities that are also going through booms when it comes to building. But it does seem to me that people are beginning to lose faith in a system in which that is happening in their community. But you take my 3 kids, they're from Sudan, right? So Atara's 25, the twins are 22, graduated, they got jobs, right? Their chances of getting a house, this conversation is repeated millions of times in Canada each day, I'm sure. Their chances of getting a house are almost nil unless their parents or whatever it is make a significant intervention to help them with down payment or whatever it is. But in the past, what it took was get an education, move on, get a job, then you'll be able to get a mortgage and you move on, and your parents can also move on and doing their stuff. But it's not happening like that now. And it seems to me that in the process of that, all of those changes taking place, that average Canadians are more confused and flustered than they were in the past. So I really agree with you, that's just my way of saying it, that this bigger system approach really needs to be dealt with, and not these one-offs where we suddenly do something in homelessness for this year and then that's it. But do you think we're getting closer to that? I know Mark Carney in his book, when he wrote that he published last year, he talks a lot about the system stuff and getting it right. But is it your sense we're getting closer to that, or is it your sense we're getting farther away from it? Definitely when you look at it politically in the federal scale, there's trouble brewing. So it makes you wonder if we'll ever be able to get to that. What's your view of all of that?
Well, I think that the federal government we didn't have a national housing strategy from the early 1990s until 2018 or something. Yeah. And I know that when I was in the House of Commons, I worked with people like Megan Leslie, for example, and Libby Davies, Olivia Chow, Gerard Kennedy, probably yourself as well, in terms of trying to establish a national housing strategy that looked at this in a broader way. And I think some good things are happening. The Rapid Housing Initiative is putting billions of dollars into creating rapidly housing for those who have no place else to go. So that's that's an important part of it. When I look at things like income, the primary cause of all of these things, homelessness and ill health and lack of education, is income. Yeah. And so we've shown with seniors that we can provide a basic annual income between the OAS and the GIS, that there is a base, and seniors poverty in Canada, there's still seniors, particularly single women, but seniors poverty in Canada has dropped dramatically in the last 20 years. So the child tax benefit is a help, is that what it's called? The child benefit or whatever it's called, is a help in this direction. So I think there are solutions. I think that my concern is that we're at a point now where so much money has been spent, particularly by federal governments, but also by provincial and municipal, that the long-term indicators are going to mean that governments are going to pull back on spending. And if we pull back on the wrong things, then the situation will go really badly. On top of that, rising interest rates, lack of skilled and unskilled labor, supply chain issues mean that a lot of housing projects, both affordable and market housing, are being stopped or are on hold. John Tory told us in Saskatchewan he thinks 25% of their housing projects are on hold right now. And as he said, building affordable is becoming unaffordable. And so that's a real problem. And if we go out and bring a bunch of skilled and unskilled labor into Halifax to build houses, they still have to live somewhere in the short term. So we're in kind of this conundrum that just creates this wicked problem, that the solutions aren't easy, but that doesn't mean that we can ignore them. They have to be
Yeah.
They have to be front and center in all orders of government. I think increasingly they are, and hopefully will continue.
Yeah. And when I talk about storm clouds in Ottawa, I mean more that, a government will do something significant, and then another government will come in the next election, win government, and then might reverse on a lot of those things, right? So it's somehow trying to get a cross-party agreement, which we saw some of that in Ottawa, but it's getting that so that it can endure the generations of elections, right, in order you can build a system out of it. And that's what I worry about, because sometimes you especially see it in the States or in Britain, people take those things and use them as political footballs to get advantage over another party. Mike, I think it would be good sometime, and I didn't let you know this, but I'd like to talk to you more in another one of these sometime when it works out for you, because I think there's more to poverty than homelessness or housing. Right? This is all we've had time for today. But I think in London, we're trying to look for those broader solutions as well. And we have a civic election coming up in the fall, right? And a number of our people, including our mayor, are not running again. So, we have some real challenges ahead of us, and we have to think of it. But I hope you're able to do that with us, because my view of it from the food bank side of it is that we're seeing more and more seniors. We're seeing more and more people that are on minimum wage, and it's because of all of these other things, the price of food, interest rates, all those other things, right? It's getting really tough. I'd like to talk about that a bit more. Are you open to that?
I'd love to do that. I keep Googling to see when you're going to announce your re-entry into elected politics. Haven't seen it yet. Maybe it won't happen. No idea.
That's what you're there for. I love doing what I'm doing, especially, but I'm very much aware that cities are really where it's at. I've always believed that. So I think we need more education around that, what cities need in the way of defense from their citizens, but also what cities need as they travel up to these more senior jurisdictions to try to get resources if they can. So I'd like to do that again if we can, but I really do appreciate it. I did not know that you were leading that large. I knew that Iveson was there before, but I didn't know you were his replacement. And,
I don't know.
How long have you been doing that?
I don't know if I'm leading it, but I'm the chair of the big city mayors for about a year now, as a matter of fact. When Don announced he wasn't running for mayor of Edmonton again, I'm doing that. So listen, how is Jane?
Jane is good, swamped at the food bank. She's there all the time, so I don't see her nearly as much. But we've just seen remarkable things, wonderful things that the community has done, like things we've never seen before. But also the numbers are really going up, and the number of agencies are helping are there. And I'm sure you're experiencing that. All of the cities are. So we just all have to get ourselves together. But I have more trust in the nonpartisan cities working together out of shared interest than I sometimes do in a political system that has to have a partisan lens that it's looked through. So I'm really glad.
That's why I'm still here.
That's right, and I think that's
maybe not for long, maybe for long, maybe not for long. But I've enjoyed my time as mayor. It flies by, and I see some positive things. And as always, there's more work to be done. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I hope kids are well and that you say hello to them. They wouldn't remember me from the old days, but I remember them.
Yeah.
And I certainly remember you, and it's a pleasure to talk to you.
It is, Mike, and we'll talk again if you're open to it.
Yeah,
we have
anytime.
It's a bit more. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. All right.
You're watching Rogers TV, London. Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Looking for the best way to get the Major League Baseball games you want to watch? Rogers Super Sports Pack has you covered. With MLB Extra Innings, you'll have a premium ticket to out-of-market regular season games with all games available in HD. Don't miss the action from the games you want from both the American and National Leagues. MLB Extra Innings, part of the Super Sports Pack. For only $35.95 a month, Rogers customers get all this for one all-inclusive price. Order using your remote starting on channel 431 or visit Rogers.com today.
watching Rogers TV.
Boom! Hey, everybody! It's the RTV Quiz Show, the hottest show on television. It's a show where you sit back and relax and take a break from all the craziness that's going around. We try to entertain and educate. Yes, folks, it's edutainment. Today we have a very special Valentine's Day celebration. Actually, it's our post-Valentine's Day special. You know what that means? All the jokes are half off. All right, so round one, the category is Will They or Won't They? TV romance. These are all about TV couples and their on again, off again romances. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah? Everything's better in TV, huh? I love that. They meet the guy, they get to the point, they break up all in a half an hour. That's my kind of relationship. All right, here we go. Question number one. What on-again, off-again couple initially broke up because one member thought that they were on a break? Which couple was that? Not the name of the show, we need the couple. Question number two. On The Office, who was Pam engaged to before Jim? Folks, I'm a bit of a romantic, I believe in that expression. If you love someone, set them free. If they come back, let them go again because the other person didn't want them either. You know what I'm saying? Question number three. Who does Beth marry on This Is Us? Is it A, Jack, B, Kevin, C, Randall, or D, Miguel? Ooh. One of these names is not like the other. Spicy picante. Question number four. Alice and Ralph Cramden were the titular couple on what mid-20th century sitcom? Titular. Somebody steal your thesaurus? The producer has lost his thesaurus. He just can't find the words to express how saddened he is. Number five, Stephanie Zimbalist and Pierce Bronson characters really didn't get together until the end of the fifth season on what 1980s series about a female detective? What was the name of that show? Oh, speaking of 1980 romance, I got a fun fact here. Where are my fun facts? According to the Star Wars University Institute, the majority of Star Wars fans spend every Valentine's Day solo. All right, welcome to round two. The category is you plus me. So all these answers have the letter U and the word me in the answer. All right, that's fantastic. Question number six, Miss Dior, Black Opium, and Chanel number 5 are all examples of what? An affair. Worse than sparkles. Question number 7, length times width times height is a formula that can be used to calculate an amount of space in units cubed, otherwise known as what? Folks, that reminds me, remember when you're back in school and the teacher used to try and make math fun by having like holiday worksheets, like little pumpkins on them, and for Valentine's Day there'd be big hearts? Yeah, I remember in college I had a teacher to try to do that once, asked me to plot my relationships on a graph. I said, this is perfect. On this axis, we have all my X's, and on this one we have all the Y's. It was a small graph. Question number 8. What artificial water channel can be used to transport logs? Recreational versions can be found at amusement parks. Oh, speaking of amusement parks, folks, it says here that Walt Disney is opening up a new theme park in Chernobyl. It says right here, apparently it's going to be exactly like the theme park in Florida, except in Chernobyl, the 5-foot mouse will be real. Question number 9. What is the term for the pseudo-scientific study of numbers and their supposed influence in life or world events? What is that? What about that? Question 10. In the UK, what 7-letter word is used in place of asphalt? Yeah. In England, they don't say asphalt. They say this word instead. Again, it's got a me and a you in the answer. You and me. All right, time for round 1. Round 1 answer to category was will they or won't they TV romances. Here we go. Number 1, what on-again, off-again couple initially broke up because one member thought they were on a break? What was it? That was Ross and Rachel from Friends. Question number 2, on The Office, who was Pam engaged to before Jim? That was Roy. That was Roy. Folks, I got to be honest with you. I think Roy dodged the bullet. I mean, Pam is no prize. Makes Jim wait 4 seasons before he even kisses the guy, and then he's got to go to all those art shows. And she's a terrible artist. And as far as TV receptionist goes, I mean, come on, she's no Lonnie Anderson. You know what I'm saying? Question number 3: who does Beth marry on This Is Us? Jack, Kevin, Randall, or Miguel? She marries Randall. Goes for the safe guy, Randall. Huh? Question 4. Alice and Ralph Cramden were the titular couple on what mid-20th century sitcom? That was The Honeymooners. The Honeymooners. Question number 5. Some actress that no one's ever heard of and Pierce Brosnan's character didn't really get together until the end of season 5 in what 1980 series about a female detective? That was Remington Steele. Question number 6. Miss Dior, Black Opium, and Chanel number 5 are all examples of what? That's perfume. Oh, but a fun fact here about Miss Dior. According to Miss Dior, a good romance starts with the foundation of trust, friendship, and mutual respect, while a bad romance starts with rah, 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 rah. This is a banana. Question number 7. The formula length times width times height is used to measure what? Volume. Question number 8. What artificial water channel can be used to transport logs? Recreational versions can be found at amusement parks. The answer is flume. Flume. Sounds very French. Folks, speaking of French, I went to the Walt Disney World in Paris, Euro Disney. And in France, it's exactly like it is in America, except when people go up and down a bumpy roller coaster, everybody yells, yes! People in Ottawa got that right away. Hello, bonjour. Question number 9. What is the term for the pseudoscientific study of numbers and their influence on the world and events? That's called numerology. It's a study of the spiritual nature of numbers. That's much different than neurology. So the difference between people who study numerology and neurology is approximately 3,000 IQ points. Question number 10. In the UK, what 7-letter word is used in place of asphalt? It's called bitumen. Bitumen. That's really, really interesting, folks. There's certain words that you never hear in England. Like you'll never hear them say asphalt, or you'll never hear them say elevator, or you'll never hear them say nice teeth. Don't you worry, you just keep on smiling, and we'll be back with more our TV quiz show after this.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hi, my name is Gerald. I'm a volunteer here at Rogers TV. Really happy with all the great things I've learned doing video productions for Rogers, all the great people I've met, and being part of a great community.
I am Justin Newell. I am an EVS operator, which is something that travels all over. So today I am based in Winnipeg.
And over top of the blocker.
I used Rogers and my volunteering time there as a means of gaining experience. I found while I was there that I also gained some great friends and also some business connections to be able to further my career. Rogers was fun because I was able to do a variety of different positions technically. I've always tried to be a technician in many different sorts. So from being an audio mixer to a switcher, a replay professional, to a camera person. It gave me a safe place and an encouraging place to be able to try different things, to be able to just, as Miss Bristol says, get messy.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
All right, folks, welcome back to the RTV Quiz Show. This is round 3 of our special post-Valentine's Day edition. Category 3 is Greek mythology. Question 11, who was the chief god of the ancient Greeks? Like, who was gods of the gods? The godfather of the godfathers. The lays all dressed of potato chips. Who was that guy? Question number 12, who flew too close to the sun using wings of feathers and wax? He made this thing, he flew this, and then it all melted, and he came crashing. Basically, he forgot to put the sunscreen on. He used a copper tone, sun factor 2. Question 13, Jason and the Argonauts set out on the quest to obtain what mythical item? If it's the Toronto Argonauts, that mythical item is 3 back-to-back wins. That's... Fargos! Question 14. What was the name of the multi-headed dog that guarded the gates of the underworld? Was that A, Medusa, B, Cerberus, C, Demeter, or D, Chimera? The name of the multi-headed dog that guarded the gates of the underworld. Sounds like my best friend's wife. Question 15. Which of the following was not one of the 12 labors of Hercules? Was it A, slay the Nemean lion, B, clean the Aegean stables, C, capture the Cretan bull, or D, steal the staff of Hermes? I thought Hercules just smashed things. Like according to the cartoons, that's and then he just smashed. All right, time for round 4. Round 4 of our post-Valentine's Day theme. This one's interesting, tricky yet fun. It's called Confection Connection. So what it is part of the answer is the name of a candy, and the other part of the answer is not. You see what I mean? Let me give an example. A chewy fruit-flavored candy and America's 34th president. So that would be Mike and Ike Eisenhower. You see that? Mike and Ike is a candy. Eisenhower is a president. This is good. You realize we just lost our entire audience in Oshawa. They're like, huh? Is there a game on? Huh? Question 16. NBA legend that wore number 23 and played for the Bulls, right? Plus a candy-coated nut, sometimes called a draggie. So, folks, these are a little bit tough, so I'm going to give you some time to figure them out. While you're thinking of the answer, I'm going to write in my journal, in my Dear Journal, if I wrote a joke about a candy bar, would anyone snicker? Question 17. Mallard's brand of sugar-coated sour candies, plus a Canadian sketch comedy group. Huh? Dear Journal, if lawyers want you to get sued and doctors want you to get sick and police officers want you to be a criminal, then the only people that wish you prosperity are thieves. Question 18. What Lot's wife is turned into in the Bible, plus a soft stretched candy originating in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Dear Journal, I've just realized I'm almost 55 years old, which means I have woken up more than 19,727 times. And yet, I'm still not good at it. Question 19. Wrigley cinnamon flavored gum, plus a UB40 song, which is a Neil Diamond cover. Put those together. What do you get? Dear Journal, why is it that tall people are expected to help shorter people reach things on a shelf? Yet when a tall person asks a short person to hand them something they have dropped on the floor, it's considered insulting. Question 20. A title of nobility, usually given to the second son of British monarchs, plus a refreshing chocolate advertised with the tag, "Get the sensation." Dear Journal, I just realized that there is nothing I would do for a Klondike bar. All right, time for round 3. Round 3 answers. The category was Greek mythology. Question 11. Who was the chief god of the ancient Greeks? That was Zeus. Question 12. Who flew too close to the sun using wings of feather and wax? That was Icarus. Yeah, he's very famous. There's a temple in Greece dedicated to him. You know, I like to think my body is like a Greek temple. It's in ruins and highly in debt. Question 13. Jason and the Argonauts set out on a quest to obtain what mythical item? The Golden Fleece. I didn't know that. I always say my poor knowledge of Greek mythology has always been my Achilles elbow. Question 14. What was the name of the multi-headed dog that guarded the gates of the Underworld? That's Cerberus. Cerberus was his name. And question 15. Which of the following was not one of the 12 labors of Hercules? It was D. Steal the staff of Hermes. Question 16. NBA legend that wore number 23 and played for the Bulls and a candy-coated nut, sometimes called a draggie, which is never. That was Michael Jordan Ullman. They get better. Don't turn off the station. I need this job. Don't change the chair. I got a wife and kids. Question 17. Mallard's brand of sugar-coated sour candies, plus a Canadian sketch comedy group. That's Sour Patch Kids in the hall. Sour Patch Kids in the hall. You see, it's clever. It's clever. Question 18. What Lot's wife is turned into in the Bible, plus a soft, stretchy candy originating in Atlantic City, New Jersey. That's pillar of salt water taffy. Pillar of saltwater taffy. I was close. Mine was cold and distant saltwater taffy. Question 19. Wrigley's cinnamon flavored gum plus a UB40 song, which is a Neil Diamond cover, right? So that's Big Red, that's the gum, red wine. Big red wine. Red wine. The big red kiss a little longer, but a little long. Red wine. Right, number 20. A title of nobility, usually given to the second son of British monarchs, plus a refreshing chocolate advertised with a tagline, get this sensation. So, right, so the first part is, the prince, right, is the Duke of York peppermint patty. The Duke of York peppermint patty. That's clever. People like this category. And don't you go away, folks. We'll be back right after this bonus round coming up.
It's about sharing and caring. It's about doing and belonging. It's about living life to its fullest. And it's about laughing out loud. We are L'Arche Canada, and we're about witnessing and sharing the gifts of all people. Learn more about us today.
My daughter is 7 years old and has a frenemy. They have play dates that always end up in a fight or tears. This friend bosses her around and treats her poorly, but she still wants to be her friend. What's a parent to do?
I would let them acquiesce to a certain amount, and then, when they're at this age, you still need to be supervising their play dates. So I might step in, not to correct the bossy child, but it's my child that I'm concerned about. I would just expose her to other people, teach her to have a voice, and let her know that she's got options.
Jeff from Chillin' and Grillin' with Jeff, and we're back with Season 3. This season, we've had the opportunity to see some great backyards, to have some fantastic food cooked on some great grills, and this season, we're helping you take your barbecue game up by adding some great barbecue tips from some local experts on anything from spices to knife care and using the proper wood to smoke some great food. Join us, Chillin' and Grillin' with Jeff, Season 3.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Mario Elia, and I'm the host of a new show here on Rogers TV that we're calling Keeping London Healthy with Dr. Mario. So tune in Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. and we'll see you then.
Hi everyone, my name's Ranger M. I love to knowledge share, and that's just what I'm going to do with you. So come on, let's go learn with Ranger M.
All right, folks, welcome back to the RTV Quiz Show, the special post-Valentine's Day edition. All right, this is round 5, and all the points are double point answers. Why? Because nobody cares. Round 5, the category is romantic getaway. Romantic getaway. Question 21, what neighboring American and Canadian cities are known as the honeymoon capital of the world? Folks, I'm telling you, like the honeymoons back in the... my Uncle Guido used to tell me that back in the day, you couldn't even talk about sex before you got married. Huh? And then he said, after you got married, you could talk about sex whatever, as much as you wanted. Question 22. Heart's Desire, Heart's Content, and Heart's Delight are all small towns in what Atlantic province? I'm telling you, folks, Valentine's Day was a lot of pressure, huh? And every year my wife complains. Hey, this year she complains, all right, I take her to a top-notch, I'm talking about a super nice restaurant, okay? When we get there, it was full, and we had to wait for a table. And she goes, well, honey, why didn't you make reservations? You never make reservations. I tell you all the time. It's Valentine. I tell her, honey, Swiss Chalet does not take reservations. Question 23. What European capital is both known as the City of Lights and the City of Love? I'll give you a hint. It's also known as the City of Sweet Surrender. Question 24. Check out the white sand beaches at Honeymoon Island State Park, located in America's 27th state and one of the 8 states with a Spanish name. Which state is it? Folks, let me give you a hint. Everything in this state is in the 80s. The people, the temperature, and the IQs. Question 25. Kissing is a small municipality located in Germany's largest state by area. What state is it? Is it Saxony, Bremen, Bavaria, or Hamburg? It's a small city in Germany with a romantic name, Kissing. Which reminds me of that beautiful German love song. How's it go? That's the chorus. All right, time for round 5. Round 5 answers. Romantic getaway was the category. Question 21. What neighboring American and Canadian cities are known as the honeymoon capital of the world? That's Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls. Question 22. Heart's Desire, Heart's Content, and Heart's Delight are all small towns in what Atlantic province? That's Newfoundland and Labrador. Newfoundland, a lot of romance going on there. Well, what else do they got to do? You want to go fishing again, or you want to... Question 23. What European capital is both known as the City of Light and the City of Love? That's Paris. I don't think they should have both names. Like the whole, it's like a bar. When they turn the lights on, the love kind of, whoa. Question 24. Where is the romantic beaches of Honeymoon Island State Park located? What state? That's in the state of Florida. And question 25. Where is the small municipality of Kissing located? In what German state? That's C, Bavaria. Bavaria. Of course, that's where they make all the beer. Folks, I hope you had a great Valentine's Day. And until next week, folks, stay safe, stay calm, and stay nice.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Favorite part of volunteering at Rogers has been picking up new tech skills like running cameras or graphics and getting to volunteer with and meet people in a super fun sports-based environment.
Looking for the best way to get the Major League Baseball games you want to watch? Rogers Super Sports Pack has you covered. With MLB Extra Innings, you'll have a premium